Whew. Morning everyone. Carl here from Warriors of Dystonia. I've just been on a run and now I'm walking around a graveyard. I'd always come to this graveyard to get my head sort of cleared anyway during the week. Really old graveyard is quite close to where I live. Hopefully when I check this footage later there won't be any ghosts or anything like that, but anyway, so I thought I'd have a go at sort of starting a bit of a blog thing, because usually the videos that I share around the Dystonia right now are for the project that I'm working on, and there's been a few people that have asked what dystonia I've got and questions about myself. So I've got cervical dystonia. I was diagnosed, can't remember, a long time ago anyway. My dystonia and the symptoms started I'd say about a month after my first daughter was born. I'd noticed a few weird things, like my head pulling to one side when I was at a restaurant with my wife. I had to go to the opticians for just a regular checkup, and the optician had asked me to stare forward, looking at the light and all that jazz. And they were telling me, even though at the time I actually thought my head was still, they were like, you're turning your head. And the more I sort of concentrated and focused on trying to not turn my head turned even more. Yeah, and then basically from then on it sort of progressively got to a point where it was pulling all the time. So I went to the doctors, and they put it down to like depression. I think they even linked it to sort of anxiety of my daughter being born and being a new dad and all that, which kind of made sense in the early days. But then, a year later, and my head was still pulling to one side and everything, and it didn't really make sense. And also, I didn't really feel depressed. Now, stressed, yeah, I was quite stressed. I mean, also at that time, I'd been sort of promoted in my job. I was having a few sort of struggles with people in my social circle. So it was a bit of a melting pot of sort of psychological factors in there. However, generally I didn't feel too bad. Flies just landed on my head. Oh, you'll keep that in the video anyway. So yeah, I generally didn't really feel depressed. I'd been depressed in the past, so I kind of had an idea of what I thought depression should feel like. So over the years, I say over the months, it was really bugging me. And one day I typed in something like involuntary turning neck or something like that on Google, and this term came up, dystonia. I think it did come up, cervical dystonia, and I thought of cervical and cervix, and I gotta be honest, I'm not trying to sound too crude, I just thought it was vaginas. So I was like, that doesn't seem right. But anyway, after a bit more research then, it did turn out that all of the symptoms that were being described were exactly what I was going through. So I made an appointment to go and see my doctor, and initially my doctor just said nope. And I remember being really frustrated, and there was a computer behind him, and I said, well, can you just type it in on your computer and then compare it to what I've been telling you for the past, at this point, 2 years? And it was funny because it was like, even they were really sort of surprised. They were really like, whoa, okay. So they set up an appointment with a neurologist, and I believe it was about 2 years before I actually did get to see a neurologist, and the assessment was a bit shit, to be honest. I went into a room and did a few sort of exercises, basically, where, you know, had to sort of hold my head as still as possible and follow him around the room without moving my body, you know, with my head. Sounds a bit strange, actually, but yeah, basically he was walking around the room and I had to sort of look at him as he walked around, but I wasn't allowed to turn my body out to sort of try and use my neck. They took some bloods, checked my eyes and some other things. And yeah, I was diagnosed with cervical dystonia. And while it was a relief, it was, I don't know. I really don't know. And I'm sure if you're watching this and you've got dystonia and have gone through the same sort of journey, I think you know what I mean. I didn't know. It's taken so long for me to be sort of officially diagnosed by a doctor. I'd already come to terms with what I knew anyway. I'd already done the research online. I'd already read a lot of things about the condition. In some ways I was just really thankful that it wasn't something that was gonna kill me. But the next sort of 6 months, and I can really remember it, there were a few times where, you know, I was walking to work with my wife, you know, at the time my daughter, we had to get a bus, bring her into town. It was a 20-minute bus journey, bring her into town, take her down to my sister-in-law's. It was like a half-hour walk across town. Belfast weather, it's not always, you know, bit of blue sky there. You don't always see that in Belfast. So we, you know, we're exhausted, we're going back and forth to work, get covered in rain, and yeah, there were days where I found it really, really tough, and, you know, a number of occasions where I did break down and I cried and really wallowed in it. And it was weird because I'd already been going through it for about 3-4 years at this point, but for whatever reason now it was real. So I'd been offered, I was offered Botox injections and some other sort of medication, tablets and things, and just from my own personal choice, I've never really been one for taking medication. I don't even take paracetamols or anything like that unless it's a last resort. I don't know why. I think it's because when I was younger I took an allergic reaction to penicillin, and I'm just a bit paranoid that something will go wrong. I think I always go in and have a look at all of the chemicals and things that are in painkillers, and they scare me. So anyway, one of the things I was really concerned about with the Botox was that you know, that I would reach a point where it wasn't working anymore. Excuse me, something went in my eye. God, maybe walking around a graveyard trying to do this isn't the best thing. There's too many trees, bugs. Anyway, yeah, one of my big concerns was if I started going down the route of the Botox injections, I would become increasingly resilient to them, and that I would need stronger doses. And to be honest with you, my dystonia, certainly at that point, I didn't really think was, I'd got on for the past 4 years. It didn't feel like it was getting any worse, so I didn't really feel like I needed to start chucking in injections into my life at that point as well, particularly if there was a chance that they wouldn't work. So and then, as with the medication, we talked a little bit about the side effects and things like that. And I'm a very creative person. I do a lot of writing and other art projects and things. And I didn't really want anything to get in the way of that. And the main thing was, as well, I was a new dad. So I was already trying to get my head around being a dad. I didn't want anything chucked into the mix at this point. So that was my own personal choice. You know, that's not to say that these things wouldn't have helped me at that point, wouldn't have helped with the pain. and the constant pulling and the sleep deprivation and generally feeling like shit. However, they were all battles that I had been dealing with and knew I could cope with, and knew I was strong enough to deal with and get over. I suppose get over is the wrong word. Just deal with, because you can't really get over those things. They're always there, always. So, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I mean, when it comes to seeing neurologists and things like that, I've only ever seen a neurologist 3 times. It's awful here in Belfast. I guess if I contacted them and asked to see them, I could see them, but I suppose I just know that there's people that need a neurologist more than me. I've sort of stuck by the philosophy that I've always had from the start, and that's, yeah, my dystonia is a pain in the ass. It really is, or a pain in the neck, better term. However, I've been able to deal with it and get on with life. And that's not to say that things are easy. They're really not fucking easy. You know, my sleep is messed up. Sleep is completely out the window, really. I mean, it's hereditary in my family anyway, I believe, sleeping issues. However, trying to lay on a pillow and get comfortable when it feels like someone's just sort of holding my head and trying to turn it in a direction I don't really want it to go in, for it to go in, it's a nightmare. Trying to conceal it in public, yeah, hate it. You know, I used to be one of these sorts of people that like to be standing up in front of a load of people and joking, you know, work meetings, drop the odd little joke, and, you know, all your focus would go on me, and I loved it. Now, last thing I want is people looking at me. I just don't want to. And so many people say, oh, you wouldn't know, Carl, or you couldn't see it, but it's because I've got so good at being able to conceal it. You know, right now, for me to do this video, I've got my arm is kind of crooked into such a strange interlocked position, because it's keeping my shoulders up, which is kind of jamming my headphone into the side of my neck, which is allowing me to conceal it. So that's what's usually going on there, you can see. Oh, headphone jammed on my head. So yeah, I've been able to conceal it. I keep myself active, you know. I'm walking around a graveyard at 5:30 in the morning. What the fuck was that? Thought it was a bee. You know, I keep myself active, I go running. Sleep deprivation does get on my nerves. I mean, I was up at 4 this morning and I really didn't feel like running, but I'm also self-aware of my age. I want to keep myself fit. I've got 2 daughters that I want to be here for as long as possible for. I would say that sort of doing the exercise and the endorphins and sort of feeling good about myself does definitely help with the dystonia. Back at my worst days, they were days where I not only sort of sat in sort of self-pity of myself, but sort of in my world is shit. My world really isn't shit, you know. I live in a beautiful place. I got a beautiful wife. I've got beautiful children. I couldn't love my family any more than I love my family. Seriously, they're amazing. Between all of my girls, they're you know. But even without them, I sort of look around and think of all the things that I can do. You know, whether it be sort of writing or creative or I don't know, just listen to that, you know. So I think sort of getting myself out of that, and it's the thing with it is that my neck doesn't pull as much, you know. So while I don't think there's ever a psychological way of fixing dystonia, there isn't, you know. It's there, it's, you know, it's a physical issue, and for many more other people it's much worse. But when I'm talking about my own dystonia, I know that it could be worse if I allowed it to be, you know, and I try to just power on. So, wow, there's a fox. I've just seen a fox. Cool, I didn't know there were foxes here. I'm gonna end the video here. Anyway, that's my first long rambly blog video. It's a bit more about me. I'll try and do some more which are not so rambly and sort of keep you updated with what I'm doing day to day. But thanks for watching. Take care.